My brothers and sisters, the day I sat across from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I knew history was shifting under our feet. The room glowed with camera flashes, diplomats whispered, and pens scratched across polished mahogany. But for me, it was not just another ceremony. It was the sound of chains breaking. $15 billion. That figure rang across the hall like a drum beat. The world's headline shouted it. But listen closely. This was not charity. This was not a handout. This was not the usual dance of loans and debts, dressed in fine words, but poisoned at the core. No, this was a partnership forged not in subservience, but in strength, oil for technology, energy for modernization, sovereignty for respect. They said I was too young to lead, too reckless to negotiate, too bold to be trusted. Yet in that moment I carried the weight of generations. The farmer who watered dry soil with sweat. The miner who dug with bare hands under foreign flags. The child who studied by candlelight dreaming of electricity. I did not sign for myself. I signed for them. And as the ink dried, I felt the West tremble. They do not fear our weakness. They fear our awakening. For decades they told us Africa was too small to matter, too divided to rise. But that day under those flashing cameras they saw the truth. Burkina Faso will not beg. We will bargain. We will not kneel. We will stand. Many will ask why India? Why now? Brothers and sisters, this pact is not simply about barrels of oil flowing into tankers. It is about building a foundation for the next century. Burkina Faso sits on reserves that the world barely acknowledges. Beneath our soil lie riches that others hoped would remain locked until they could exploit them on their terms. But we are the ones turning the key. India is not offering us crumbs. India is offering steel mills, petrochemical plants, power grids, defense workshops. They are not here to give us fish, but to build the nets, the boats, and the markets. For every drop of oil that flows east, a stream of technology, investment, and training will flow west. This is what the West never understood. They said aid, not because they loved us, but because aid is the leash that ties the dog to its master. They loaned us billions, knowing we would pay back trillions in interest and concessions, in resources stolen at cheap prices. But this pact breaks that cycle. We are not trading weakness for strength. We are aligning equals. India secures energy for its fast-growing economy. Burkina Faso secures modernization for its youth. And the world learns that we are no longer content with dependency. This is not just an oil contract. It is a vision of power. Power generated in our homes. Power built in our factories. Power flowing in the dignity of a people finally standing upright. Transparency is the sword with which we cut down rumors. So let us speak plainly about what this deal contains. For $1 billion, for oil extraction and refining, ensuring that Burkina Faso does not remain a mere exporter of crude, but climbs the ladder of value-added production. $5 billion into petrochemicals and energy infrastructure, pipeline storage and processing plants that will power not only India's needs, but our own industries. $3 billion for steel and manufacturing plants, factories that will rise from our soil, employing our youth, shaping the rails, machines, and buildings of tomorrow. $2 billion in defense technology, a recognition that sovereignty without security is an empty promise, and $1 billion into agriculture, telecom, and training programs, because the foundation of strength is not just machines, but educated minds and fertile fields. These are not grants. They are not loans with hidden chains. They are foreign direct investments. Meaning India is planting its capital in our soil, expecting growth for both sides. Yet, brothers and sisters, let us not be naive. Investment is not charity. It comes with expectations of profit, of leverage, of influence. The question before us is not whether India will gain. They will. The question is, will we ensure Burkina Faso gains even more? Will the seeds they plant bear fruit for us or only for them? In Ouagadougou's markets, as women bargain over millet and men unload sacks of onions, one question rises. Will this deal change my life? A taxi driver stuck in traffic hears the news on his radio. He shakes his head. Another promise, another headline. Farmers in Kaya, welders in Kédougou, students in Bob Delaso. They have all heard of deals before. Too many have vanished into corruption, bureaucracy, and foreign bank accounts. This time must be different. If power plants light their homes, if factories employ their children, if training centers equip their youth, then this pact will not just be words. It will be lived reality. Thousands of jobs can be born in steel, in petrochemicals, in agriculture, in telecommunications. Engineers will rise. Welders will find steady pay. Farmers will see modern equipment transform their harvests. But if profits vanish overseas, if factories remain foreign-owned enclaves, if technology transfer remains only ink on paper, then this will be another betrayal. The real battlefield is not in speeches or summits. It is in the villages where light bulbs flicker on for the first time. It is in the classrooms where engineers learn to code. It is in the hands of ordinary Burkinabe who will decide whether this pact lives or dies. Do you feel the tremors, my brothers and sisters? From Washington to Paris, from Brussels to Beijing, they whisper in corridors of power. What is Traoré doing? How dare Burkina Faso, small, landlocked, underestimated, sign a pact of this magnitude? The answer is simple. We dare, because we must. China has poured billions into Africa, but often on its terms. The West has held us hostage with debt, sanctions, and conditional aid. They all believed they alone held the keys to our future. But now India steps forward with a different offer. Trade, technology, investment, not military bases, not endless lectures, not aid disguised as chains. This deal is not simply Burkina Faso rising. It is Africa declaring to the world, we choose our partners. We choose our destiny. And make no mistake, this has rattled the old order. For decades, the West has counted on Africa's dependence on our division. They are afraid that other African nations will follow this path, that sovereignty will spread like wildfire across the continent. To them I say, yes, be afraid, because this pact is not the end. It is the beginning. And from Ouagadougou to Bamako, from Naim to Dakar, the message is clear. Africa is no longer a playground for foreign empires. Africa is a partner. Africa is awake. For too long, our resources were not just stolen. They were priced in the currencies of others. Oil, gas, gold, all tied to the US dollar, to the euro, to systems built far from our soil. But in this pact, we have begun to carve a new road. Discussions of rupee-franc settlements. Imagine that. Oil leaving Burkina Faso, Indian technology arriving, all without passing through Western banks. Transactions outside the reach of sanctions beyond the manipulation of dollar flows. This is not simply financial convenience. It is rebellion. It is freedom written in numbers. For decades, they told us the dollar was eternal, unshakable. Yet here we stand, exploring trade without it. But let us be cautious. The CFA franc, still tied to Paris, remains a colonial chain on our wrists. Until we break that tie, until we build a true sovereign currency, even bold experiments carry danger. Our economy must grow strong enough to sustain this shift. Still, I would rather stumble toward freedom than walk smoothly in chains. This step is risky, yes, but it is a risk worth taking because every barrel of oil not priced in dollars is a statement. Africa is not a prisoner of the West's financial empire. What is sovereignty without security? A castle without walls, a nation exposed to vultures. Burkina Faso bleeds daily from insurgency, terrorism, and plots of destabilization. For too long, we begged for weapons, bought scraps at inflated prices, and relied on foreign powers to protect us. Powers that only deepened our dependency. This pact changes that. $2 billion in defense production. Indian expertise, yes, but built in Burkina Faso with our workers, our engineers, our soil, rifles assembled in Ouagadougou, armored vehicles manufactured in Bob Lasso, communication systems designed by our own trained youth. This will not solve everything. Terrorism does not vanish with factories, but it changes the balance. It tells the world, we will no longer rent security. We will build it ourselves. Of course, critics whisper, what if this drags us into India's rivalries with China or Pakistan? My answer is simple. Our allegiance is not to any bloc, but to Burkina Faso. If a partnership strengthens our sovereignty, we embrace it. If it weakens us, we reject it. For the first time in decades, the weapons in a Burkinabe soldier's hands may bear the mark made in Burkina Faso. And that, my brothers and sisters, is a revolution of its own. Every great gamble carries two futures, one bright, one dark. Which path we walk depends not on destiny but on discipline. Best case, factories hum. Thousands of jobs bloom. Oil revenues stabilize the economy. Engineers trained under Indian programs design Burkina Faso's future industries. Electricity flows to villages. Farmers use modern equipment. Students code software that links Africa to Asia. We become not a raw exporter, but a hub, a bridge between continents. Worst case, corruption seeps in like poison. Contracts are mismanaged, funds siphoned, factories controlled by foreign bosses, while locals remain laborers. The profits flow abroad. The people see little change. Anger spreads. Protests rise. The pact collapses into another broken promise. Another stone in the graveyard of African dreams. The line is thin, brothers and sisters. Too many times we have fallen into the worst case. Betrayed by leaders who sold our birthright for personal gain. I refuse that fate. But my refusal is not enough. It will take every Burkinabe vigilant, disciplined, demanding transparency to turn the bright future into reality. This pact is not a miracle. It is a chance, and chances once lost do not return. Do not think this pact is only about us. Africa watches. From Ghana's ministries to Senegal's markets, from Mali's soldiers to Ivory Coast traders, they asked, can Burkina Faso pull this off? If we succeed, we light a fire across the continent. Leaders will look to Ouagadougou and say if they could rise, so can we. New India-Africa partnerships will bloom. The chains of Western dependency will weaken. A new map of power will be drawn not in Washington or Beijing, but in the capitals of Africa and Asia. If we fail, the skeptics will laugh. They will say, see, Africa cannot govern itself. Give them billions, and they will waste it. Trust only the old order. Our failure would not just be ours. It would be used as a weapon against all Africans daring to dream of freedom. That is why this pact is more than national. It is continental. Our success would not just lift Burkina Faso. It would lift Africa. Our failure would not just shame us. It would drag Africa down with us. The stakes are high because history is watching. And history does not forgive wasted chances. When I signed my name beside Narendra Modi's, I did not sign a simple contract. I signed a gamble, a generational bet, a challenge to history itself. This $15 billion pact is oil, yes, but also factories, jobs, power plants, training programs, defense production. It is an architecture of sovereignty, a blueprint for dignity, a declaration that we are no longer beggars, but partners. 5 years from now, the world will judge. Will Burkina Faso shine with factories and lights or stumble in mismanagement and corruption? Will our youth stand tall as engineers and innovators or remain trapped in hopelessness? I do not claim certainty. I claim commitment. The West will try to sabotage us. Enemies will whisper lies. Challenges will come. But this pact is a seed planted in the soil of our struggle, watered by the will of our people. Brothers and sisters, history's pen is in our hands. For too long, it was held in Paris, in Washington, in London. No more. The story of Burkina Faso will be written in Ouagadougou. The story of Africa will be written in African hands. The cameras may have captured the signature, but the fire belongs to us.